Artificial intelligence is literally redefining the most popular sport on the planet, millimeter by millimeter. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're dissecting the massive, game-changing controversy surrounding semi-automated offside technology. It's a brutal battle between flawless, cold, digital precision and the chaotic, emotional reality of human sports.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To understand the sheer scale of this debate, we have to look back at the absolute heartbreak of the 2026 World Cup, where microscopic margins completely altered the fate of entire nations. When former England striker Wayne Rooney yelled this on the BBC broadcast, he wasn't just speaking as a pundit, He was echoing the complete and utter disbelief of millions of fans worldwide watching a digital line literally erase a moment of pure sporting magic.
And that brings us to the core conflict we're looking at today. On one side, you have the pursuit of absolute binary perfection. On the other, you have the beautiful game itself, a game that has always relied on raw emotion and human shades of gray. So, has our absolute obsession with getting the call exactly right ruined the very soul of the sport?
Section 1. The Toenail Offside Heartbreak.
So the crucial point is grasping how devastating this is in real time. Picture this, June 2026, Colombia versus Portugal, 90 minutes of intense football, deadlocked at 0-0. Then, in the 91st minute, Colombian defender Davinson Sanchez heads home this dramatic late winner. The players go wild, the fans are ecstatic, but 2 minutes later, it's completely wiped away. Why? Because the semi-automated system found that the very tip of Sanchez's right boot, literally just his big toe, was marginally ahead of Portugal's Rafael Leão. The manager later joked he'd send Sanchez to a podiatrist before their next game, but for the fans, that heartbreak was incredibly real.
Section 2. The Anatomy of Law 11.
Let's do a quick forensic breakdown of the actual rulebook here. The strict parameters of Law 11 dictate that a player is offside if any part of their head, body, or feet is in the opponent's half and nearer to the goal line than both the ball and the second-last opponent. Notice that the arms and hands are completely excluded. Why? Because you can't legally score with them anyway. But here's the most misunderstood part of this entire law. Simply standing in an offside position is perfectly legal. It's what you do next that actually matters.
And this brilliantly illustrates the difference between passive and active offside. Look at the 2026 World Cup match between the US and Australia. Alex Freeman scored a crucial goal, but a freeze frame immediately showed 3 other American players standing in clear offside positions. Fans were absolutely furious the goal stood. But under Law 11, those 3 players were in a passive position, meaning they didn't touch the ball and they didn't block a defender. Freeman, who was perfectly onside, was the only one actively involved. The system got it 100% right.
Section 3. AI and the connected ball. This is where we get into some real sci-fi level engineering. Enter semi-automated offside technology, or SAOT. FIFA installs 12 dedicated tracking cameras right under the stadium roof. They track 29 specific data points on every single player. We're talking wrists, knees, shoulders, toes, captured 50 times per second. The AI builds a live 3D model of all the limbs on the pitch, generating instant automated alerts for human VAR officials. It turns human bodies into trackable digital geometry, making the invisible perfectly visible. But cameras are honestly just half the story. The Trianda match ball used at the 2026 World Cup contains an inertial measurement unit sensor right in its center. This thing transmits data 500 times per second back to the video operation room. Cameras can sometimes struggle to pinpoint the exact millisecond a boot strikes a ball, right? But by fusing the 3D player mapping with this 500 Hz internal sensor, the system completely eliminates human guesswork about when the pass was actually played. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the staggering contrast between the old manual guessing game and this lightning-fast new tech. With the old manual VAR, you had humans dragging digital lines across a screen pixel by pixel, often taking 90 seconds or more to essentially make an educated guess. With SAOT, those lines are auto-generated from that massive data pool, validating decisions in under a minute. It's faster, it's undeniably more precise, and it fundamentally changes the entire rhythm of the match.
Section 4. The human cost of VAR.
We have to pivot sharply here, from technological perfection back to the messy, sometimes incredibly dangerous physical reality of the sport. Because of VAR, assistant referees were instructed to keep their flags down on tight offside calls, just allowing play to finish in case the attacker was actually onside. But this creates a highly dangerous artificial environment. Defenders are forced into explosive, completely unnecessary sprints to stop attacks that are literally already dead. We saw the terrifying peak of this when Nottingham Forest Taiwo Owoniyi collided heavily with the goalpost while chasing across from a player who was clearly offside. Owoniyi required abdominal surgery and was put into an induced coma. The pursuit of perfect reviews literally put a player's life at risk.
So, to bridge that dangerous gap between AI speed and human safety, lawmakers introduced a brand new tweak for 2026. Now, the system sends an automatic audio alert directly to the assistant referee's earpiece the instant a player is offside by 10 centimeters or more. If it's a clear offside, the alert sounds, the flag goes up immediately, and players don't have to risk their bodies finishing a dead play. It's a very pragmatic compromise, trying to blend that automated precision with some much-needed common sense.
Yet all this precision brings up a massive frustration for fans. Think about it. Why will VAR instantly overturn a spectacular goal because a shoulder was 1 millimeter offside, but completely ignore a violent foul in the penalty box? Well, it comes down to factual versus subjective decisions. Offside is factual. The AI draws the line, and you either are or you aren't. But a foul, that's subjective. It requires human judgment of intent and force, with VAR only intervening on a, quote, clear and obvious error. This binary strictness on offsides makes the leniency on fouls feel incredibly jarring. And that strictness takes an immense emotional toll. In the 2026 World Cup round of 32, Croatia's Joško Gvardiol scored what looked like a miraculous stoppage time equalizer against Portugal. But VAR wiped it out because a teammate standing offside got a microscopic reset touch on the ball earlier in the build-up. Croatian manager Zlatko Dalic summarized the despair perfectly, saying, "It kills the emotions, it kills everything within you." The tech got the call right, sure, but to millions watching, it stole the magic of the moment.
Of course, human ingenuity always finds a way to outsmart the system, right? Consider this brilliant loophole found by a Swedish third-tier team called Torns IF. Because VAR relies on finding the exact frame a ball is passed, they realize that if a player balances the ball on their foot and scoops it into the air, there is literally no single point of release to measure from. Through some gentle, amusing persistence, their viral video literally forced the International Football Association Board to rewrite the official text of the law to account for delayed scoop passes. You gotta love that.
Section 5. The Daylight Rule Solution. Let's move to and see how this builds into a proposed solution for the current crisis. Arsene Wenger's Daylight Rule proposes flipping the advantage completely back to the attacker. The legendary former Arsenal manager, who is now FIFA's chief of global football development, suggests an attacker should be onside as long as any part of their body that can legally score a goal is level with the defender. To be offside, there would need to be visible daylight, like clear space between the attacker and the defender. No more toenail offsides, no more armpit margins.
But hey, not everyone is on board with this. Pundits and former defenders like Jamie Carragher have strongly opposed the idea, stating flatly, it will be terrible for the game. The argument against the daylight rule is that giving forwards such a massive head start will absolutely terrify defenses. Instead of playing exciting, high-pressing football, teams will just park the bus, dropping their defensive lines incredibly deep into their own penalty areas, potentially leading to some very slow, negative, heavily defensive matches.
But this isn't just a theory anymore. Right now, the Canadian Premier League is actually trialing the daylight rule in professional matches to see if it restores the attacking spirit of the game. And the statistics are absolutely staggering. If the daylight rule had been applied to the 2026 World Cup group stages and round of 32, 17 goals that were wiped out by VAR would have stood. Let that sink in. 17 massive tournament-altering moments. To become global law, it still needs approval from the traditional British football federations, but the momentum for change is undeniably building.
Which brings us to the ultimate lingering question that you have to decide on. With AI cameras mapping our every joint and sensors tracking 500 movements a second, we have finally achieved the objective perfection we once begged for. But did we sacrifice the soul of the sport to get it? Should football rewrite its core laws and embrace the daylight rule to bring the joy back? Or should we accept that in a chaotic, fluid game, maybe human error was always the point? Let us know what you think in the comments, share this with a fellow fan, and as always, thanks for joining us on this explainer.